Hello, I'm Jeff Sachs, and very thankful to Gianni Varoufakis for letting me be part of today's festivities. I'd love to be with you in Athens, but I have to be in Kuala Lumpur today. But I'm most grateful that I can join with a short message. Giannis has written an absolutely splendid book, and I'm delighted that it is being reissued today in paperback. And in addition to the launch of the paperback edition of this great history of the euro up to the present debacle in Europe, Giannis is also leading two other magnificent efforts. One, to try to open up the processes of the European Central Bank so that we can both understand better the terrible missteps that occurred with regard to Greece in recent years. And second, and more generally, to try to promote a democratization of European politics and European policies. And I want to say something about all three of these occasions: the book, the European Central Bank, and the state of Europe's democratic institutions. Well, the book is a wonderful history of the origins of the euro and the missteps of the euro in recent years. The most charming moment of the book is the one that gives it the title, when Giannis is actually paging through John Maynard Keynes' copy of Thucydides' Peloponnesian Wars, and he comes across the chilling section where the Athenian generals tell the Melians that indeed the weak suffer what they most. They don't have rights. The weak are to be crushed. And this powerful passage of the Peloponnesian Wars is really the theme of Giannis's fantastic history, because what Giannis really shows at the core is that the European project and the European Central Bank project and the creation of the euro had a democratic deficit, really from the origin and almost from the design. This was a way to empower a bureaucracy in Brussels, and now to empower a few powerful states, but not to promote European-wide democracy. And the cost of this is phenomenal. It goes back to Keynes himself once again, because it was John Maynard Keynes in the end of World War I who really laid out the political economy of fraught creditor-debtor relations, especially in the aftermath of World War I and the reparations demands. And it was Keynes who described, from his economic consequences of the peace in 1919, and then his unbelievably brilliant essays in the 1920s and the 1930s, how an imbalance of debt could absolutely cripple economic policy making and, more fundamentally, politics, and send countries into a very profound crisis. And all through my career, when I was working on debt workouts of insolvent governments, I referred back to John Maynard Keynes' lesson that if we punish the weak, as the Athenian generals did to the Melians, the end result is disaster for all sides, not only the suffering of the weak, but also the destabilization of the powerful as well. Well, of course, Giannis came into this story as finance minister in 2015, facing a fraught situation where Europe was making impossible demands on Greece. It's a situation I knew well, even in the preceding years from my attempt to be helpful, at least a little bit, to the government of George Papandreou beforehand, when it was facing impossible demands to repay unpayable debts. And in those years, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, I hoped, I argued, I wrote that Germany, above all, should be granting debt relief for Greece because the debts were unpayable. The Greek economy was being crushed, and this was in the interests of nobody. When Yanis became finance minister in 2015, I had the joy to meet him early in 2015 and to do, again, anything that I could, which proved to be not very much, to help Greece in its negotiations and analysis of the economic situation as it faced, again, the European Union demands. Well, in the first half of 2015, the situation was simply impossible. Greece could not pay the debts. Germany would not recognize the need for debt relief, despite the fact that every expert around the world was saying that debt relief was needed, despite the fact that the U.S. government, the International Monetary Fund, and others were making this claim. There was simply a lack of true, sound analysis. And while there were politics, the politics were all nationalist in that they revolved around Germany's internal politics, not the real needs of Europe to resolve the Greek crisis. And then, as Yanis analyzes very accurately, the vice was turned to squeeze Greece step by step in the banking sector as the European Central Bank withdrew access to liquidity, and then in June effectively closed the Greek banking system, a disastrously costly policy, and I argued at the time, and I would argue till today, a disgrace of the European Central Bank that it allowed this to happen. Well, one thing that I tried to do together with Yanis in those days was to show clearly, unequivocally, that Greece had a clear policy that was serious, resolute, reform-minded, and absolutely accurate from a macroeconomic perspective. And I helped the finance ministry and Yanis to work on a document that was called the Greek government's policy framework for fiscal policy, recovery, and growth. A very good document indeed from May 2015. Well, the European partners would not even consider the document. I was shocked. The German government would not discuss it. Brussels would not discuss it. These were not serious negotiations. This was a dictation of terms from one side. The weak suffer what they must. And of course, we know the outcomes. Until this day, the Greek economy has been crushed. The demands remain unpayable. The nationalist backlash and the unhappiness through Europe continue to rise. And the democratic deficit continues to show. This is why the two other initiatives that are under discussion in today's festivities are so important. Yanis is absolutely right to demand openness and transparency of the European Central Bank. Here you have the most critical single economic institution of the European economies, and the decisions, quite disastrous decisions, are made in secret, and they are not subject to review even at the time or ex post after such terrible outcomes occur. We need transparency in all our crucial economic institutions. And of course, Yanis is part of a political movement helping to spearhead it for democracy in Europe more generally. And let me just say one word about this. European countries have democratic institutions. The shortfall is at the European level. The European Union is a union that requires democratic principles, transparency, fairness, justice, and decency if it's to work. Europe risks coming apart at the seams right now because it has been failing to solve absolutely solvable crises like the Greek crisis because of the imposition of punitive measures that may respond to the domestic politics of powerful actors, but make absolutely no sense from the European-wide point of view or from the sense of justice and fairness and decency which need to govern relations among states and among partners in the European Union and between creditors and debtors. Greece needs debt relief. It has needed it for years. This has been plain. It still needs it. And the failure to achieve it is a massive policy failure of Europe, but it is a reflection of a democratic deficit. So congratulations to Yanis Varoufakis on his being the Thucydides of our time on Europe's economy and its common currency. And congratulations for pushing the cause of democracy. I am personally a lover of the European Union. I want to see it work. I love the concept. I believe that it has created peace and it's created some of the finest institutions and outcomes in the world in terms of social democracy and in terms of sustainable development. So it's crucial that Europe succeed, and it will succeed if it acts transparently, professionally, democratically, and with the sense of justice. And I think that those are the messages of today's event, and I'm very excited to be able to be part of it. Thank you very much, and all best wishes.